Say good morning, Spuddies. This is Biscuit. How you doing, guys? Hope you're doing well. It's super hot and humid here in New York. It is currently 93, but feels like 103. Oh joy. Yeah, I'm staying inside all day. So I just got done brushing this guy. Now, we recently got this brush, and I thought it was actually going to be too small because technically it's for short hair and it's for cats up to 10 pounds. I wasn't really paying attention at the time that we bought it, but I decided to open it, try it out anyway, because if you look at this monstrosity of a cat here, he is super fluffy. Oh, there's Bowie. And of course I have to...
Captain. Incoming message.
Okay. And I have these greenies to keep him occupied. He's like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Of course, if I give one to him, I gotta give one to him. Here you go, Bobo. Oops. There you go, good boy. So, pretty well behaved. Now, I've got this little... I don't know how big this was before, but it wasn't that big of a pile. And I just got it from Biscuit's bag. But then, I went for his tail. So, this big old bushy tail made all of this. Because what that brush does is it pulls from the undercoat. And because it's the summer and it's so hot and it's they got a lot of fur. Yeah. That helps them out a lot. You feel better after that?
Captain.
You feel better after that? I take that as a yes. So I took all that fur, rolled up into a ball. I would have done it on camera, but I have to use both hands. So his tail, and this is from his back. Give me. There. It's a fur ball rock sculpture. Biscuit, can you please explain to me why you have so much fur?
This is called the posterior position. This position, a baby wants to change in labor. It either wants to change and rock its way this way, because this is the optimal. When you think about the baby, this is the pelvis, right? Here's the pelvis. The baby has to get down under the pelvis. This is it has to maneuver too much of its limbs and its body parts, and it's in the way.
Okay.
So it wants to turn. If you have a baby that's leaning, mostly the back is on your left and you're feeling kicks on your right, most likely a baby is going to stay in this position and then it will wind its way down this way. If a baby's on the right, leaning on your right, and it's got the kicks all on your left, it might have to turn this way first, this way, and that way. And that is a longer time.
Right, longer labor.
Oftentimes it's a longer labor. So we try to do things in pregnancy to just encourage a better environment position-wise, as far as your posture goes. So that's why by sitting with a dip in your butt, it kind of tilts your uterus this way, and then the heavy part of the baby's head is the back of it, so it wants to flop that way. So when you're sitting like this, leaning, the weight, the gravity goes down and you get a posterior. So I have people sit up, like you're doing pillows behind you,
Right.
or at the edge with your belly hanging in front. So it kind of encourages this is more of this way, so that the baby will eventually. Okay. So when Valeriana or Noonie listen to the baby, where do they hear the baby's heartbeat?
Last time it was like over here.
Oh, good.
because they ask like where I feel the major kicks,
Right. So
which are usually up here. Mostly it's this side, and I can sometimes feel that pressure up here. But I feel sure.
So what I'm looking for are like, hi baby, I'm just gonna feel you on it. I'm looking to see where's the curve in the baby's back and where is their hollow space. Tell me if I push. It's harder when you're sitting. But
Yeah, it actually feels funny having somebody press on my belly like that because I'm.
do you have to pee? Okay. I'm just getting it. Don't they do this? Feel your belly?
Yeah, but it's when I'm laying down.
Yeah, it's usually when you're laying. It's weirder when you're sitting because it doesn't give you. So it's hard. If you were laying down, I'd have a better sense of where the baby is.
Right.
And it's better if you're like tired, like cause you feel like you're just sitting up all the time. Then lay down on your side.
Right. Yes, that's
Lay
what I
on
do.
your left side and just hang out on your, or lean on your left like that.
Yep, I do that.
So that you're thinking in terms of how do I want to position the baby? If I'm leaning on my left, then that's good because the weight will be that way. And you can just be like, oh yeah, I'm holding you, baby, just like that. That's a really good way to do it. So you're
Right.
already bringing in an awareness connection between you and the baby. 'Cause that's what it is. It's all about the connection. How do you think? And this is for you too. How do you think labor might start?
I have no idea.
I know that, well, one of the signs is usually when you lose your mucus plug,
It could.
or you have some pinkish, brownish discharge. And then, now sometimes, of course, TVs always, or movies always say like it's like a gush of water, but that's not always true. It could be a trickle. And I've heard that some women get confused because they're like, that pee, was that fluid, that sort of thing, so they go and have it checked out just to see. But, and then sometimes the water doesn't break. It can happen before or during. And of course, the contractions, your belly tightens. So that's what I know.
Those are all pretty good. Having cramps, like menstrual cramps.
Right. Yes.
I had a call the other day from somebody who said, I don't know if this is anything, but when I'm walking, I get these pinches in like my groin area. I said, okay, what happens when you stop? She said, well, then they stop. I said, are you hydrated? Because if you're dehydrated, your uterus could be just not functioning completely. Like when we're dehydrated, we don't function well.
Right.
And I said, okay, so just notice it when you go home. If everything stops, then it's just from walking and, the closer you get to birth, you have all these hormones releasing in your system that relaxes the cartilage and the ligaments, and everything starts to get loose.
Right.
So I haven't heard from her, and that was 3 days ago. So it wasn't labor.
Okay.
It was just the combination of walking and.
That kind of happened to me. Maybe not quite pinching. It was just a sudden kind of tightness. Maybe like a few weeks ago. I just felt the tightness down here on my lower abdomen, and we were walking, but it didn't last very long.
Did you hear the name Braxton Hicks?
That's what I was wondering that's what I was going to ask you is that, as opposed, like, would you feel them all over, or could you just feel them just down here?
Oftentimes they start down low, but eventually they work the whole uterus.
Okay.
Because if you think of the uterus has like different segments, so the lower segment is what first starts feeling something. But it's like when the whole uterus is working together, that's more of that's an active working to move the baby down.
Okay.
contraction.
Okay.
Sometimes those little ones, what those little ones do is, if you think of the uterus being like a pear shape,
Mm-hmm.
upside down pear,
Mm-hmm.
and the long part of the pear is the cervix, and that's what opens.
Gotcha.
So it does two things. It opens and it also widens. I mean,
Mhm.
it widen opening, but if you look at the length of my hand being the length of the neck, it will also shorten
Gotcha.
and then open.
Mm-hmm.
And that shortening part is called effacing,
Mm-hmm.
and then the dilation is the actual opening.
Right.
So sometimes you have just softening happening, like instead of it being taut, it starts getting flimsy and it starts to soften. And it actually goes from being as thick as your finger to as thin
Oh wow.
as the cuff
You know
here.
that?
So it's almost like it stretches, and as it stretches, it gets thin,
Mm-hmm.
or like a turtleneck. You know how a turtleneck can be a thick fabric, and as you pull it through your head, it just all of the
Yeah.
fibers just stretch and get really thin,
Mhm.
and then comes down. That's like a cervix in a baby's head.
Okay.
It might not get really thin, but it gets pliable. You know, like, or clay.
Mhm.
If you've had clay, if you've ever worked with clay or beeswax, it's hard, but when you start working it, it gets softer. It's easier to thin and move with. So that's also what's happening in early labor. Another thing that happens in early labor is that your breasts are getting ready to produce milk and to make milk easily accessible for the baby. So you've got that aspect happening. There's also this aspect of just your mind wrapping around, this work that you have to do.
Right.
And then the hormones, again, more hormones that get released. The more contractions there are,
Mhm.
the more hormones that get released. As the more hormones, the more it softens that pelvic movement. And it also, other hormones will help to bring the baby down. So, if you're thinking of babies up here, and your hands are here, down here, and that baby has to, come through. It also has to maneuver
It has to
between the
turn.
bones. So it's like babies are like wiggling their way in there and trying to find. So this combination between the contractions working, the body opening, and the baby's, the main thing is the baby's skull.
Right. That's why it's the hardest.
So the baby's skull is not fused together.
Mm-hmm.
These are sutures between both sides of the skull that overlap. And they overlap so they make room to fit through the pelvic bone. So that's also something that's happening. So there's a lot of unseen stuff
Right.
that goes on in the first part of labor. That's why also the first part of labor often is longer than the second part of labor, of actually bearing your baby down. Because there's a lot more that has to get ready before that point.
Right.
When it's time to bear your baby down, it's like, okay, let's get to work. Now the doors are open. Everything is like saying, come on in, I decorated my house, I cleaned up, the guest is arriving, I'm gonna open the door and welcome them in.
Right.
So that's the the second part of labor. And that's like the way to look at it is there's a guest coming.
Mm-hmm.
Some guest.
Really? Yeah. She
Getting
started
ready.
moving. And she's like, I feel her keep moving here.
Yeah. So it's like it's a
Oh, yeah,
wonder.
she's moving. She's like, I like this. And I feel it.
Yeah, she's mostly on this side up here. So and it's all good because she's gonna move, and you can just like help her.